Philip, thanks very much for joining us today. There's been a lot of focus on ESG, particularly sustainability. I guess, what have you been seeing in the market from your perspective?
We concentrate, or we focus our discussions on questions like the carbon footprint, measurable things like energy consumption of properties, waste reduction, or also this is more related to the environmental things, the environmental factor, also social factors like fair payments for workers, and these things are measurable, and these things have impacts on certificates, on ESG, which are at the moment very much requested. And however, the ongoing COVID-19 crisis showed us again that the world is changing much more quickly than we have on our own agenda. And that shows us also that we need to implement another criteria to that ESG discussion, which is at the moment not really measurable, but that should be included in the discussion anyway. And this one is the topic of resilience.
When you're talking about resilience within this perspective, how do you see that, Philip?
Well, resilience is understood in different ways for different fields of use. And when we try to find a definition, then it would be the ability of individuals, societies, or socio-economic systems to cope with a sudden burden of which is caused by a crisis or a disaster, and which is to restore the ability to function and to act as quickly as possible again. So in terms of seeing resilience for the real estate sector, it is the ability to get real estate and to get also a city working and functioning again. What is resilience in there? First of all, it is the importance to prepare for extreme events through appropriate measures, so that damages do not occur in the first place. If this does happen, the crisis, the previously protective measures must work to keep the consequences as low as possible. So this is the protecting. And then in the next phase, there will be a response to the crisis so that you have a rapid and organized and an effective emergency response so that you are able to recover quickly. So that would be resilience. And once that the threat is over, there must also be the recovery phase where you go back to normal, which is the one thing we are trying to establish now in terms of the COVID-19 crisis. And here is it crucial that you have to learn lessons that you can adapt and prepare better in the for the next crisis.
What does that mean going forward, that resilience in terms of the real estate sector?
Yeah, that is a very good question, because I think this resilience question has concrete implications on how we plan buildings in the future, and also how we define usage concepts for buildings with users. So what we see, for example, now is that during the crisis, work concepts have been completely dismissed or have been dismissed as completely outdated only in a few months, so that no permanent workplaces if possible and not too much distance. This complete concept has been dismissed and doesn't work anymore at least in the nearer future. So from one day to the next, this new work concept has been questioned, and we are now looking for new ways to implement new concepts, and these are obviously old concepts with cell offices where you can keep the distance, where you can keep some safety. And there are many changes for which we are not prepared. And speaking in terms of use concepts, we are, for example, looking at long-term lease contracts for 10 years or something like that, which incorporate all those use concepts. And now we're going to see that we need to change these use concepts very, very quickly, and that this phase of adaptation and this phase of recovery needs a certain kind of a flexibility. And this is especially in terms of real estate, this is a real challenge, because real estate is not developing so quickly like obviously the world at the moment does. And so resilience must be the mindset that we need when we plan buildings, when we adapt buildings in the future, that we have in mind that such a crisis can change our usage concept, can change the usability of a property within minutes.
It's been really interesting, Philip, in terms of just the progression and the focus on resilience and ESG, and it'll be really interesting to see how the industry does have to adapt to that. Thanks very much for sharing your insights today.